In December 2024, the corporate world was shaken by the tragic death of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The man at the center of this high-profile case is 26-year-old Luigi Mangione, a University of Pennsylvania graduate now facing serious charges, including murder and stalking. This documentary delves into the intricate details of the case, exploring Mangione's background, the alleged meticulous planning of the crime, his arrest, and the subsequent legal proceedings. Chapter 1. The Victim, Brian Thompson. Brian Thompson, as the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, was a prominent figure in the healthcare industry. Known for his leadership and contributions to expanding healthcare access, his sudden death was a significant loss to the industry and left many questioning the motives behind such a heinous act. Chapter 2. The Alleged Perpetrator, Luigi Mangione. Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old graduate from the University of Pennsylvania, had a promising future ahead. However, beneath the surface, investigators allege that Mangione harbored deep-seated grievances against the health insurance industry. Evidence suggests that as early as August 2024, Mangione began plotting to whack Brian Thompson, indicating a premeditated intent to commit murder. Chapter 3. The alleged plot unfolds. Investigators uncovered a notebook entry dated August 15, 2024, where Mangione allegedly expressed his intent against the health insurance industry and its executives. He reportedly referred to his scheme as trivial, admitting sole responsibility. This evidence points to a calculated plan, with Mangione allegedly stalking Thompson for days before executing the fatal shooting in broad daylight in front of a Manhattan hotel. Chapter 4. The arrest following the murder. A manhunt ensued, leading to Mangione's arrest at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. At the time of his arrest, he was found in possession of a letter explaining his actions, further implicating him in the crime. He was charged in Blair County, Pennsylvania, with carrying a gun without a license, forgery, falsely identifying himself to the authorities, and possessing instruments of crime. Chapter 5. The legal proceedings begin. Mangione's legal battles are complex, involving both state and federal charges. In Manhattan, he faces an 11-count state indictment, including charges of first-degree murder in furtherance of an act of terrorism, making him eligible for life imprisonment without parole. Additionally, federal charges have been brought against him, including murder through the use of a firearm, which could make him eligible for the death penalty. Chapter 6. Extradition and Detention. After waiving extradition, Mangione was transported to New York City, where he is currently detained at the Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn. This facility is notorious for its poor conditions, including violence, rodent infestations, and raw sewage. Interestingly, Mangione is housed alongside high-profile inmates, including rapper Sean Diddy Combs, who is facing unrelated charges. Chapter 7. The Defense's Perspective. Mangione's defense attorney, Karen Agnifilo, has expressed surprise at the dual federal and state charges, raising concerns about potential double jeopardy. The defense is preparing for the upcoming court appearances, with Mangione's arraignment scheduled for January 18, 2025 implications. This case has sparked a broader debate about the intersection of mental health, corporate accountability, and the lengths individuals may go to express their grievances. Mangione's alleged manifesto, criticizing corporate greed, has brought attention to the pressures and ethical considerations within the healthcare industry. Chapter 9. Luigi Mangione's alleged manifesto and its implications. Following his arrest, one of the most significant pieces of evidence that emerged was a handwritten manifesto reportedly authored by Luigi Mangione. The document, discovered in his possession during his arrest, detailed his frustrations with the healthcare system and corporate leadership. Mangione specifically targeted the alleged greed of large corporations and the executives who benefited at the expense of the public. This manifesto not only offered insight into his potential motive, but also sparked national debate. Activists and political commentators dissected its contents, with some using it as a rallying cry to address systemic inequalities in the healthcare industry. Others condemned the document as the unhinged ramblings of a man whose grievances had led him to violence. Key excerpts from the manifesto. According to law enforcement sources, the manifesto included the following statements. Healthcare is a right, not a privilege. Yet these corporations profit off the suffering of the sick and vulnerable. Brian Thompson is the face of this corruption. His wealth is built on the denial of care to those who need it most. This is not just about one man, it's about an entire system that needs to be dismantled. While these excerpts shed light on Mangione's mindset, they also raised ethical questions about how society should address grievances of this nature. Chapter 10. The role of social media in shaping perceptions. The case of Luigi Mangione quickly went viral, with social media platforms playing a significant role in shaping public opinion. Hashtags like #JusticeForBrian and #HealthcareReform now trended for days following his arrest. The court of public opinion. On one side, supporters of healthcare reform pointed to the manifesto as evidence of a broken system. They argued that Mangione's actions, while reprehensible, were a symptom of larger societal failings. Conversely, critics denounced any attempt to frame Mangione's actions as a form of protest. They emphasized the brutality of the crime and the need for justice for Brian Thompson and his family. Social media's influence extended beyond public discourse. Legal experts noted that the widespread coverage could impact the jury selection process, potentially complicating efforts to ensure a fair trial. Chapter 11. Psychological profile of Luigi Mangione. In the aftermath of Mangione's arrest, forensic psychologists were brought in to evaluate his mental state. These assessments aimed to determine whether Mangione was capable of standing trial, and more broadly, to understand the factors that may have led to his actions. Mental health struggles. Preliminary evaluations suggested that Mangione may have suffered from undiagnosed mental health conditions, including depression and obsessive-compulsive tendencies. Friends and family members interviewed by investigators described him as highly intelligent but socially isolated, with a tendency to fixate on perceived injustices. The role of isolation. Mangione's isolation likely played a role in exacerbating his grievances. Without a strong support network, he appeared to spiral deeper into resentment, ultimately culminating in violence. Chapter 12. Federal and state legal complexities. Mangione's case represents a rare intersection of state and federal jurisdiction. This dual prosecution has led to legal challenges, with both sides jockeying for control of the narrative. State charges in New York State, Mangione faces an 11-count indictment, including charges of first-degree murder in furtherance of an act of terrorism. If convicted, he could face life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Federal charges. Simultaneously, federal prosecutors have charged Mangione with murder through the use of a firearm and interstate stalking. The federal charges carry the possibility of the death penalty, though this decision ultimately rests with the Department of Justice. Legal experts have noted that pursuing both sets of charges raises concerns about double jeopardy. While federal and state laws technically allow for concurrent prosecutions, critics argue that this approach risks undermining public confidence in the justice system. Chapter 13. The impact on UnitedHealthcare. Brian Thompson's death sent shockwaves through UnitedHealthcare and the broader corporate world. The company, which serves millions of Americans, faced immediate questions about its leadership and future direction. Continuation. Unpacking the case of Luigi Mangione. Conclusion. As the legal proceedings continue, the case of Luigi Mangione serves as a stark reminder of the potential consequences of unresolved grievances and the importance of addressing mental health issues. The upcoming trial is expected to shed more light on the motivations behind the crime and the evidence presented by both the prosecution and defense. Epilogue: The road ahead. The trial of Luigi Mangione is set to be a landmark case with significant media attention and public interest. As both sides prepare their arguments, the world watches closely, awaiting justice for Brian Thompson and seeking to understand the factors that led to this tragic event.